Welcome back to Wealth Mavericks, the podcast where we help doctors unlock the secrets to building generational wealth. And on today's episode, we're talking about living the 5 10s lifestyle. So this has a little bit to do with money, but a lot more to do with the holistic nature of being a doctor today. If you're a doctor and you are not set up as a business owner, I'm telling you, you're missing the game. Like, you've got to shift into something, because burnout, if you're not doing that, burnout's on the way. Statistically speaking, burnout is on your doorstep. And your job is like, how do I make this so that I can have those longer earning years? What I've seen in my experience coaching is most people don't have 20 years experience. They have 1 year of experience 20 times.
Yes.
And there's a difference between having 20 years of experience and 1 year of experience 20 times.
Absolutely.
All right, let's dive into this conversation. You guys know this is one of my favorite things to talk about. I think it's something that really gets missed in society. We become like really myopically focused on areas of our life. And I've worked with a lot of business leaders who perhaps they're very successful in business. Maybe they're really fit. You know, they work hard and they work out really hard, but their family life is a disaster. Their marriage is falling apart. They don't have a relationship with their kids, or they have no spiritual connection. And so when we talk about living the 5 10s lifestyle, this is what it means. There are 5 areas that we look at as like the equities of life, if you will. And that's spiritual, family, business, financial, fitness. And it's in that order really intentionally. And so we talk about living, you know, in our coaching, we talk about living on a scale from 1 to 10 in each of those areas. And the goal, it's like the impossible goal of perfection, which would be the 5 10s lifestyle. So I'm looking forward to diving into the conversation today. You guys have interacted with a lot of business owners as well and have seen this. Where do you guys find there to be most like the most common areas where people are failing? You know, when we're talking to business owners, when we're talking about those 5 areas, what do you see as like the common areas where there's pitfalls?
My immediate answer is it's different for everyone. Like, I just talked to a guy yesterday who said, well, I'm divorced. You know, when I asked, how do you file single or married? Well, I'm divorced. We talked to quite a few who talk about not getting enough sleep or being very burnt out or not having time to exercise. You talk about members who don't have that spiritual connection, which you just said, and how can we impact that? So I think it's different for everyone, and it does feel like an impossible goal to be killing it in all 5 areas. But I think just bringing this tool that is able to bring such awareness to where am I scoring the lowest right now and why, and then putting a plan to how can I get closer to 10, you know, but between now and when I assess again. I just think I love that you introduced me to this, and I find it very powerful.
It's so true. And I think, you know, I don't think people recognize it until we bring it up to them and kind of force the conversation upon them, because and especially as a doctor, like you're going 100 miles an hour. You know, you graduate from medical school, you've amassed a bunch of debt. You now know how hard you have to work. You go into residency and it's insane hours. And so you just fall into this cadence of, I'm a human machine. I'm a human doing, not a human being. Right. And that like leads to a lot of negative things. And so I think when we bring it to people's awareness, they go, oh, no wonder life feels so bumpy. The wheel's not round. And so I always like to show it like on a wheel. So each of these, you know, spokes, there's 5 spokes. And if you've got 4 spokes that are great and 1 spoke that sucks, that's why, you know, every time you come to that, it does that. And so I think when you bring this awareness, and I tell people, like, your first step is not judgmentally, just create on a scale from 1 to 10 in each of these areas: spiritual, family, business, financial, fitness. Just chart it out and say, where am I at? Have an honest conversation with yourself. Where am I on that scale? So that's the first step. Just like literally, like, pause this video, write down those words, draw a little chart, and score where you're at. And I think that alone will be very eye-opening for you. And then you can begin to ask the deeper questions that we go into, like from a coaching perspective, is why is the number where it's at? And what does it look like to improve? If you wanted to go from a 5 to a 6, what would that need to look like? So I think just bringing, the self-awareness, I have found that people, by and large, are usually succeeding in 2 or 3 areas, and then they have 2 or 3 areas that are like severely lacking.
Hmm.
I don't know, Bob, what do you see when you're interacting with business owners?
Yeah, for me, this is more of an area that you guys do a phenomenal job on with our members and your focus. And so on my end, it's more of the financial and it's the tax and things that get left behind. And sometimes, especially with doctors, we've talked about this before, where they have a certain period of truncated earning years. The need to make up for the first decade that they gave up their life to become a doctor. So I see some of their financial aspects fall to the wayside because they're trying to make up. So they go buy that nice car, right? They upgrade this and they upgrade that. And sometimes it's cringeworthy because you're like, oh, don't spend so much because you just gave up 3 additional years of finances.
Right.
Versus if you just held off one more year, we can gather that one more year, build some momentum, then you can get that car, but we've built some momentum, right? Which is same as your health, right? I mean, it's just
Right.
getting started, building that habit, building that foundation to where you can still continue to build upon that. It becomes easier than if you're digging the hole deeper and then you're trying to get out of that hole.
Well, I think I keep going back to, we've got to define what those areas mean. So
Yeah,
I want to take a moment and do that because sometimes
that's a good
people
idea.
go, yeah, so spiritual, when we talk about spiritual, like we are all aligned in our beliefs and how we see the world. Not everybody is that way. Somebody might be, completely like that. Just the word spiritual throws them off the deep end.
Mhm.
All I'm saying with this is like, what is your connection to that voice? What's your connection to it, to that internal dialogue? Even someone who is an atheist, who has like literally does not even believe in a spiritual life, that what's that internal dialogue? What is your connection to that? Now, I happen to believe in God. I happen to believe in Jesus. Like there's a connection that I have spiritually. It's one of those areas that has always been a strong suit for me. So on a scale from 1 to 10, I'm often hovering in the 8, 9, 10 category for spiritually. It's just an easy process for me. Other people, they might say, I don't even know what it looks like to be a 1. Okay, cool. Define it. Like just define what that means for you.
Mhm.
When we talk about family, you have the family you're born into, and then you have the family you choose. And so, I've worked with so many business owners, like I have no family. Like I by choice have no relationship with any family. Okay, who are the relationships? So you might look at that as relationships that are important to you. So it doesn't have to be just like, family by marriage or birth. Like it's just who's the tribe around you that you're connecting to. Financial, spiritual, family, business. So what is business? You might be a doctor who's a high W-2 income earner. That's your business. It's like where am I deriving revenue from? Like what does that look like? And what am I doing in that arena? It's really funny. I think we sometimes forget this in life. Each of my kids, when they've chosen to get a job, they're like, I want to make some money. Like that's usually why we take a job initially. What I've coached each of them on is I've told them there are 2 reasons you take a job. Number one, obviously, you want to make money. But number two, equally or maybe more important, is what are you going to learn in this job?
Yeah.
And that applies all the way throughout life. I don't care if you're making $10 million a year. What are you learning to invest in yourself to get to the next level, whatever that might be?
And I'm going to argue that's probably more important than actually making the money
Correct.
because you're building a certain expertise and a foundation of understanding that your value now has increased. And therefore, you can command and demand more because of that extra, because
Right.
most people don't do that.
Right. That's my kids could recite this too, but what I tell them is you don't get paid by the hour. You get paid by the value you bring to the hour. I don't care if your paycheck actually is like
An hour
dollars
later.
per hour. Your mindset has got to be what's the value I'm bringing to this hour.
Yeah.
So always improving in that. And again, I agree, Bob, like someone who's making 10 million a year, how are you improving to get to, because you can probably go from 10 million a year to 50 million a year easier than you can go from 1 million a year to 10 million a
Yeah.
year.
Yeah. Well, and think about it too. When you're looking at the whole process of getting a job, you're working for somebody, right? You're coming to the equation with your value, your expertise, your knowledge, your value. That's all you have. They have a financial number to what they're looking for that position.
Right.
And you to negotiate your value with their financial, and you agree upon to where both parties can say, okay, and now you're hired. When you don't agree, that's not going to happen. You're going to say, no, 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 no. I'm more valuable than that. You're gone. Here comes the next opportunity.
Right.
Right.
And there's in that those higher income levels, there are fewer and fewer people qualified. That's why I
Right.
say like it's probably easier to go from 10 million to 50 million because there are so few people who are
Right.
qualified to do anything. And that's, the last thing I'll say about this on business is you hear people say all the time, they like to tout, oh, I've been doing this for 20 years, or I've been doing this for a decade. Okay, that's cool. This is what I've seen. What I've seen in my experience coaching is most people don't have 20 years experience. They have 1 year of experience 20 times.
Yes.
And there's a difference between having 20 years of experience and 1 year of experience 20 times.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that.
And as a doctor, like it's incumbent upon you to continue your journey of learning when it comes to how do I get to that next level. If you're a doctor and you are not set up as a business owner, I'm telling you, you're missing the game. Like you've got to shift into something because burnout, if you're not doing that, burnout's on the way. Statistically speaking, burnout is on your doorstep. And your job is like, how do I make this so that I can have those longer earning years? So from a business perspective, scale from 1 to 10, rate yourself where you're at, in business. Even if you're a W2, high W2 income earner, where are you at business wise? And be intentional. What does it look like to get to the next step?
Joe, my question for that business one is someone may be thinking, well, how do I determine how to score myself for business? I think when it comes to health or family, that comes more naturally, but like there's so many ways you could measure yourself when it comes to business. So what are those measurables that tell you if you're a 10 or a 1?
This is a personal scale. My tens look different than your tens look different from someone else's. So the beauty of this is like a 10 today is not going to be what a 10 looks like 2 years from now or 5 or 10 years from now.
Should not.
So yeah, it really is. This is a personal decision. You determine what it is. I tend to be less prescriptive when it comes to this. When I'm coaching somebody individually, I will help them walk through what that means. So if anyone's interested and they need help with this, reach out to us. We'll see if you qualify to be a member, and then we can help you through that too. Otherwise, like make up your terms,
Yeah.
whatever it might be for you.
Yeah.
So spiritual, family, business, financial. So financial, there's a lot to do in financial. It could be income that you're earning. It could be like, do I have my estate plan secured? Do I have my last will and testament? Like, do you know how many people I talk to who they have lots of assets? And I used to jokingly say, we're going to play a fun game. Okay, here's the game. You just died. What happens to everything that you've got? And
Doesn't
our
sound
attorney,
fun.
yeah, I mean, that's why I'd have to bring it up as
But
like
you
fun.
died.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't die, you died. I think the bottom line is we tend to avoid this topic because as humans, like we have this really strong desire to continue on. And so we avoid this concept. But the truth is like there is going to be something that happens when you die with all of your assets. And if you're not intentional with it, I mean, all the way down to the level where literally the state will decide for you. I do not want the state deciding for me. So this is where I get a little bit more prescriptive. It's like if you don't have your estate plan in place, you got to get that in, you got to get it in place. I mean, you got to have your last will and testament. Like some of these things can be a little bit more prescriptive. But my point is like your financial world is made up of a lot of different things. And again, this is one of the strong suits that we help coach people through. So we got spiritual, family, business, financial, fitness. This is one of those that I see go by the wayside for so many people. The more successful they get, the less time they choose to invest in their physical health because they feel like there's things that are more important than that. And what I'll tell you is people tend to rank fitness last until health is an issue. And then it's like I'd trade anything. I'd give up all of my wealth just to feel healthy again. Or certainly if we've had a loved one, go through any, health challenges, any amount of money to trade for that. So although it's last on this wheel that we're talking about, this is one of those areas. And Aaron, I know you have a tremendous amount to share, like with people on the fitness side of things, but you just have to make a commitment. So again, be honest with yourself, scale from 1 to 10. Where are you at? What does it look like to get to the next stage? So I was watching, and Aaron, I think probably just finished watching this the other day, but the Blue Angels documentary on Amazon Prime. I love the quote that one of them was talking about. I think it was Vince Lombardi said, it's something about the impossible pursuit of perfection. We won't find perfection, but we'll discover excellence along the way. And I think that's something that we all can take, when it comes to living the 5-10s lifestyle, is how can I just get to that next step? Like, can I discover excellence in each of these areas along the way?
I love it. Just keep raising the bar higher. Once you get to that 10, there's a new 10. And that is what we're meant to do as humans, is just continue evolving and becoming better versions of ourselves every day. And I love this tool to continuously assess it along the way.
Yeah. And I think it's, sometimes it's having the accountability from people around us. It's one thing to have this conversation in our own head. This is one of those areas where I do encourage people, like share your 5-10s with loved ones, with people who are around you. Develop a game plan. Like, don't be overwhelmed by this task, but if I were to give a prescriptive set of steps for this, is literally write out each of these areas, draw a graph from 1 to 10, chart where you're at on it, and then determine what does it mean to get to the next stage, whatever that is. And don't think like, oh, I'm a 3, what does it mean to be a 10? It's, I'm a 3, what does it mean to be a 4? And from that conversation, you will derive a series of action items. It's like, okay, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. And now we're kind of deeper in the throes of coaching, but then you look at the value of carrots versus sticks. Some people are very carrot driven, other people are very stick driven, right? Carrots are rewards, sticks are punishments. So when it comes to accountability, like, what can you layer in place in order to ensure that you get to that next level? And usually having a team of people around you who are helping you along that journey can be so helpful, rather than trying to go it alone, even though you're used to probably doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope this is helpful. For anyone who's listening, don't just listen to these words. Like, again, pause the video right now. If you're still listening and you haven't taken the action, pause the video. We'll wait. We'll be here as soon as you hit play again. Pause the video, write out those 5 areas and chart it for yourself. Just have this awareness of where you're going. So and by the way, it tends to have a really positive impact when you like, success begets success. So when you're paying it, and they also say what gets measured gets managed. You can't improve what you don't measure. So if you're not paying attention to something, by the way, that application goes company wide, right across your business. If you've got managers who you're managing based on nebulous thoughts, or like, I don't know, their performance is based on something other than like a KPI, key performance indicator, they are not managing that area. Define what that means. When you create that definition and measure it, like, that's how you can improve it. So be intentional with this. Have those action items. Again, if you're a member of ours and you're listening to this, you need to have this conversation with your coach so your coach is aware and can help hold accountability for that. So success begets success. When you start winning physically, all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's easier on the business side. When you start winning spiritually, it's all of a sudden your family relationships improve. Like, it's all intertwined. So use it to your advantage.